Hi, welcome back and welcome to the new year 2023. I hope it will be better than the previous one. In this video, I want to talk to you about my stats, how successful was my reading year in 2022, and some of the best books I read, the books that I really liked and enjoyed, and some of the worst books, which, well, not a lot, but still, I have something to say about them. Let's just start with the general information, my statistics. So for the stats, I use the StoryGraph application, which I'm sure you heard of. It's just quite famous, and I think it is a great alternative to the Goodreads. I'm using the browser version of the application, but I usually use my phone for that. So it says that in total I read 53 books, which is kind of funny because I also have like a written copy of my reading list, and uh, there it says I read 54 books. Maybe some of the books were, maybe just one book was lost, or maybe it doesn't have ISBN or something like that. I really don't remember, but so yeah, let's say 53 books. Okay, fine. Let's base our stats on that. This graph is like really beautiful, based on the moods of the books that I read. So, for example, the majority of books that I read have a reflective mood, which says a lot about me, obviously. No, but still. Um, a lot of books were informative. Also, the third place goes to emotional books, which, yes, I think it is true. Oh, you have to keep in mind that the majority of books that I read usually is on. They're usually nonfiction and about art, and maybe philosophy sometimes. So that, I think, reflects this fact very, very well. So the pace of the books that I read usually is slow, like almost half of them, medium, 43%, and fast, which is 9%. I don't know if it actually says anything about myself. It just says that some books are like, I guess, easy and light to read, and some of them are not. Or maybe the stories are developing quite slowly. But yeah, that's fine. I love both. I love like all the paces because I think it depends on your own mood, on the place where you're at. So yeah. Page number. That's that's quite interesting, especially if you love to challenge yourself. So here I see that 51% books that I read have less than 300 pages. Um, then 36% have about like 300, 500 pages, and 13% more than 500 pages. But it is interesting. I'm not sure if there are any person who's like uh, selecting specifically books that are like more than 500 pages. And I think what this stats also reflects is that there are more books in general in the world. There are more books that are, let's say, less than 300 pages or about 300, 400, 500 pages, but less books that are more than 500 pages, which is fine, I think. Yeah, this one I like. This shows that, yes, indeed, I read more nonfiction. Although this year I started to read, I think, more fiction. Obviously, classics, all the classics that I always read, they go to the fiction category, but yeah. And I'm made a little bit of progress this year with the classics that I wanted to read, but not much. And I have to admit that a lot of goals were not achieved. That's why I just I stopped making goals. Let's say, yeah, I'm on the flux, and I read what I want to read at the moment. And this last section is like really interesting genres. So obviously, the majority of books that I read are on history and art. And I think the big reason for that is that during the nonfiction November, I've read a lot of historical books on the history of Ukraine. Also, a couple of books throughout this year I read on Russian history. So yeah, Art, obviously. I read a lot of books on art. I love them. Yes, and then the third category, classics. Great. I'm glad that it made it to the top genres in my reading experience. I'm really proud of it, and this year I will also try to read more, even more classics. So yeah, and also format. I have no idea why there is a digital because I don't usually read digital books. I don't recall any of them. I would actually say that 100% that books that I read are usually um, hard copies. It is really rare when I pick the digital copy, only in case it's really difficult to find a hard copy, or maybe it's just too expensive, for example. So yeah, oh, my most read authors was Madeline Miller, and I think it's just because I read two of her books. I finally read the Song of Achilles and Circe, and Fyodor Dostoevsky. I also read two of his books, and Joan Didion. I finally was introduced to her work. I can't say I became an instant fan. I prefer, for example, Susan Sontag writing. But maybe it's just because I picked the wrong novels or books. I don't know. But I basically picked the year of what how was it called? Oh yeah, the year of magical thinking. And let me tell you what I mean. And let me tell you what I mean is basically the collection of her essays, which is fine. But I seriously, I like don't remember anything from them. I really want to try another of her works. I really want to love her. Let's say I don't know why. Maybe because she's hyped nowadays, and I've heard from from the people I trust. Let's say I heard that she's a great author. Yet I didn't catch that yet, but maybe that will come this year in 2023. We'll see about that. Yes, and a very important category for me, languages. I really appreciate that StoryGraph puts that here. So the majority of books, 86%, I've read in English. In Russian, 11%, and or six books, and in German, one book in German. I wanted to read two books in German this year, in 2022, but I failed, obviously. But I mean, I think it is already success, a huge success. When if I read one book in like German, that is already a big deal for me. So yeah, I just realized how long this video could be, so I decided to cut it into two parts. So what you're watching right now is the first part about my statistics, and the second part about my favorite and least favorite books comes a little bit later. Anyways, just draw the line here. I wanted to comment on the total amount of books that I read, which was, as we decided, was 53. I can't say that's a lot of books, but at the same time, for some people, that's actually quite a lot. And there's nothing wrong and nothing like right about this amount of books. You do you. Whenever it's possible, whenever you feel like reading a book, do it. And even if it's just two books a year, that's fine. I'm sure it's worth it. And again, for me personally, throughout the year, it wasn't like a constant reading, let's say. For 3 months, I took, let's say, 3 months off of reading, and I haven't read extensive, like, I haven't read constantly, only like on my way to work and on my way back. And so all this 3 months, I was actually learning new skills. I was trying to do 3D modeling with Blender. It was a fun experience, and I really enjoyed that. I learned a lot, and maybe I'll use those skills, to make fun introduction videos for my YouTube channel. I don't know. But still, during those 3 months, for example, I haven't read a lot. Maybe I'm trying to excuse myself for not reading much, but again, we're all different and we all have different circumstances. So the amount of book doesn't or shouldn't say anything about yourself personally. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, I'll see you in the next part 2, where I discuss good and bad books of the previous year. Till that time, have a great one, and see you later. Bye!